Outcast by Phil Wingfield. Part 1. A little backstory. At the end of 2001, I was in India with my friend Keith Harris and brother Dave. We planned to visit Patna and the Sonapur Mela, a giant livestock market just outside the city. It was only 2 months since the 9/11 attacks on New York, and the entire globe was still very jittery. India was on the list of countries where a significant threat from terrorism existed. Patna and Sonapur are in the state of Bihar, situated in the northwest part of the country. At the time, Bihar was the poorest and least visited of the Indian states, and boasted the thinnest chapter in a guide of literally biblical proportions. As there was so little info available, I made the mistake, or had the foresight, depending on your point of view, to investigate the place online. The websites and online newspapers painted a grim picture of a lawless state governed by a gangster who bribed and intimidated his way into power, a place where kidnapping and murder were rife. So I insisted we bypass Patna and head straight to Kolkata. These days, the gangster is long gone, and Patna is a much different place. I reached out to residents of the city via travel sites and social media to find out the situation on the ground, which made me much happier to go. I have a better grip on how the media works too. Cute puppy plays with toilet roll is adorable, but dozens dead in bloodbath equals sales. If I had read the papers again, I may not have visited again. I'm not sure now if my 2001 decision was wise or not. It wasn't a popular move with all parties at the time, so this trip was tinged with a little guilt. Patna, 31st of January 2019. We are in Patna visiting a lad I sponsor through Plan International. He lives somewhere outside the city, but that's all we know. The people from Plan India are taking us to him tomorrow morning. But for now, we have the afternoon in the city on which I've done zero research. If Keith were here, he would have read up on the place. There's karma in action for you. But he isn't, so I check online to see what's in the area. I'm not really sure why, as India will always provide. We make it only 50 metres from the hotel before stopping for a chai. It's a grubby joint run by a guy in his 30s. He deals with the consumables and his old mum is on the till. We sit on a pair of rickety chairs at a small table. The table surface is stainless steel that they have somehow managed to stain. Behind us is a small sink for washing hands if you feel the need, but any level of cleanliness achieved would be undone by the hand towel, which looks as if it had been used to mop up sump oil. Despite all this, the place has a certain charm, and then there's a kudos of surviving to tell the tale. Everything looks straightforward on my tablet, but in reality we are soon lost. Streets on Google Maps as opposed to streets in real life, discuss. But as I always say, India will provide, in one way or another. As I mentioned, Bihar is one of India's poorest states. Patna is the capital and has, pro rata, more than its fair share of street families. We find ourselves on a road lined with juggies, tiny shacks comprised of tarpaulin over bamboo frames. In many instances, these minuscule hovels house entire families. The occupants usually sit outside, surrounded by the debris of their lives. Half-naked children play with junk and trash, anything they can find lying around. Some just stand and stare at the traffic as it hurtles by. This is not a new sight by any stretch, but I view it very differently these days. Are they living or merely existing? And there are so many of them. But what can you do? We come to a major thoroughfare with shops, restaurants, hotels, and a row of improvised chai and snack stalls set up on the pavement. It's been a whole 30 minutes since our last chai, so a chai stall run by a husband and wife team in their mid to late 50s is quite popular, with a steady stream of customers. The other punters come and go while we take our time and a few photos. We attract the attention of a group of middle-class kids who want their photos taken. They are well-dressed, well-groomed, if a little bold, but at least they don't have the cheek to ask for money. I notice another kid edge into the background, a curly-haired boy of around 10, wearing a grey hoodie. He hangs back and tries to look disinterested, but he clearly wants in, and is just too shy to come forward. I take a shot of him which alerts the other kids to his presence, and then it turns ugly. One of the middle-class lads turns on the guy. I don't need to understand what he's saying. It's all in the tone and the gestures. However, the new kid doesn't appear perturbed at all. His expression doesn't change, despite the tirade of what has to be abuse hurled at him. He turns about and wanders off down the street. I watch him leave. As well as the hoodie, he wears a pair of denim 3/4 length jeans, which look slightly too large, and his feet are bare. He's obviously poor, maybe a street kid, but he was just curious and harmless. So I shout at him. What did he do? The aggressor turns back to his crew with a big smile on his face. He's pleased with himself. He thinks he's done a good job, and so do his mates. Unbelievable. Who does this jumped-up brat think he is? I'll make it clear what I think of it all. No more photos. Sod off, you little shit, and take your Ponzi posse with you. We pay for our chai and move on. On the other side of a white van parked a few yards down the road, the poor kid is waiting for us. And he has a friend. A little girl of around 4 at a guess. She's a cutie with wild hair, a wide toothy smile and a pair of cheeks begging to be squeezed. She is dressed in a dirty and ragged pastel-striped pyjama top, complete with teddy bear motif, and equally filthy loose trousers. She wears a little bead bracelet and carries a string of small metal bells adorned with coloured beads. But again, no footwear. This girl could do nothing but smile. When I try to take a photo, the brat jumps into shot, sticking his face in front of the camera. Obviously, I did not make myself clear a few minutes ago. I'll stick it to the little shit again, in a manner that leaves no room for ambiguity and no doubt as to what will happen if he doesn't piss off. The barefoot buddies walk over to an orange tarpaulin bivouac secured to the top of a 6-foot-high wall. The lower edge is draped over a large wooden box standing about 1.5 metres out from the base. The tarp is secured by rope to several large rocks, and a thick blanket hangs down over one end to serve as a door. It is every bit as basic as the juggies you saw earlier, only larger, maybe 4 metres long. At a rough guesstimate, I would say it had an 8 square metre footprint, but it's still a piece of tarp over the pavement, and assuming both parents are around, houses a family of 4. Blankets and clothes are draped over the top and the wall to dry, or as is nowhere else for them to go. Various pots and pans and a large plastic bucket sit on the pavement next to the shelter, for cooking and washing, I assume. They have improvised a mirror by sticking some kind of highly reflective material to the wall with mud. The reflective material has been secured in place before smearing wet mud in a wide band around the edge and allowing it to dry in the sun. Next to the mirror hangs a bag for rubbish. They have a basic broom, and the area around the shelter is clear of detritus. They may be street dwellers, but they have standards. On top of the wall above the mirror sits a row of small idols. There is Ganesh, Saraswati, Ganesh again with Shiva and Parvati, Lakshmi, and the Buddha. Or more accurately, Budai, the tubby laughing Buddha who was actually a Chan Buddhist monk, not the Buddha himself. Ganesh is said to be the remover of obstacles, Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, wisdom and learning, and Lakshmi is the goddess of wealth and prosperity. Oh, the irony. For these people, the obstacles to learning and wealth are still firmly in place. They are probably in need of the calming zen of the actual Buddha to cope. A pity then that they only have a fat Chinese monk. The lad lifts the door blanket and pokes his head inside. A few seconds later, another head appears. A girl a few years older in a white top and red pedal pushers crawls out. Quite possibly a family of 5 then. So what's that? Just over 1.5 square metres per family member, including personal effects. Imagine that. If the parents are at home, they don't come out. The 3 children stand outside their door and stare at us, grinning all over their faces. We take a bunch of photos, but there are only so many different ways to photograph the same scene, and before long we are just staring at each other. If nothing else, it's nice to see them smiling. On the surface, they seem to have little to smile about. It's time to move on, so we wave goodbye and leave. I glance back to see the 2 eldest in animated conversation and the youngest girl still staring after us. There are 3 more of these improvised shelters along the wall, but no one else is about. We spend the next couple of hours wandering the streets close by. We are told by one man that he has never seen a white face in this part of the city, but another tells us that we are in danger and must leave. It's not the first time I've had that warning, but so far, so good. Heading back, we passed the bivouac community again. The 3 children are still about and Mum has joined them. The girls have had a change of clothes. The youngest has swapped her jammies for a rather striking red dress over black leggings. An attempt has been made to tame her hair, but it's failed. It needs a good wash, as does she. Big Sis is now in a chunky pink jacket. They may be poor as church mice, but they have a wardrobe. Of course, I have to take fresh photos, which brings everyone out in a smile again, even Mum. Patna, 1st of February 2019. The following day was all but taken up with a visit, and we don't return to Patna until early evening. It's been a long day, but I want to go and see the Street family again. After the rich kid incident and getting a closer look at how they live, I find I have very quickly developed a soft spot for these people, and this is my only chance to see them before we leave. It seems that all the residents of this little community are out on the street. Food is being prepared on beaten up stoves and open fires. The little girl and her brother are in the same clothes as the day before. When the little lady in the red dress spots us, her face widens into a big grin. She is such a sweetie. I couldn't see the older girl, but Dad is home now. I take a shot of the 4 of them on my phone. I would have liked to get a full family photo. I don't know where the older girl's gone, but if she was about, she would have come out, I'm sure. I consider asking to see the interior of their shelter, but I don't have the guts. I want to stay a while, but these people don't know us, and they are all about to eat. They might have offered us something had we hung around, but that would be too much for me. I wouldn't want to take any of their hard-earned food, nor offend them by turning it down. To my surprise, I find it intensely poignant to leave, knowing that I will never see these people again. Caste, Part 1, was written and read by Phil Wingfield.